My guest for this episode is Alisha Carlson, a coach who helps women break up with the diet mentality. She's definitely a bit of a rebel. She started wearing her nose ring when she was 15 and no one else was doing it. Once the other girls got to it, she took hers out and now she wears the nose ring because she loves it. You are going to like the practical advice coming from the seasoned solopreneur about the ways to keep yourself motivated, how easy it actually is to start a podcast, and how to show up on social media without the usual drama. Come find out why Alisha says, don't let perfect be the enemy of done. Hi, Alicia. How are
Hi,
you?
Risa. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Okay, so tell us, who is Alicia Carlson? Tell us a little bit more about yourself and the kind of work that you do.
Yeah. I feel like I immediately just want to start rattling off. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have two dogs, we live in Oregon. So those are some things about me. I do feel like I am um pretty down to earth for the most part. I am a working mom, and being a mom and having some flexibility in my life and my schedule, so that I can pick the kids up if needed or take them to school or be involved in their sports has always been something that's been important to our family. And so thankfully, I've always been able to work in a position that's allowed that flexibility. So prior to becoming a life and health coach, which is what I do now, I was a hairstylist and I really loved that work. I loved just the intimate conversations with people. I was always kind of the girl or the friend that people went to for advice. Always super interested in psychology and really fascinated with people and kind of what made them tick. And what I really loved about being a hairstylist was helping women feel beautiful and confident and just giving them a little bit of transformation. What I was finding though is that as I was kind of going through my own fitness journey and fitness transformation and really seeing some major shifts in the way that I was showing up to my husband, to my kids, to my family, and just really in general in life, it became more and more apparent to me that that was the kind of long-term transformation that I was wanting to give my clients. And so I made the decision in 2011 to leave my work as a hairstylist. I went back to school, got my exercise science degree, studied exercise, behavior change, nutrition, positive psychology kind of within that degree. And that has led to what I do now, which is non-diet life and health coaching for busy moms who oftentimes feel like they are so busy taking care of everybody else that they don't really have the time or make the time to take care of themselves too.
Okay, wow. So today we are talking your life as a solopreneur. So I want to like share with the listeners and the viewers the kind of tips and ideas that you have to have a good, healthy business. And my next question is like it goes nicely with what you just said. And I'm thinking back to one of your Instagram posts, and you said, "Listen, this is an unpopular opinion, that your lightest and leanest weight may not be the healthiest weight for your body." And I want to bring that philosophy of yours into play with our businesses as well. Do you think that mindset, when we try to be very disciplined, can actually work against us, even when we are building our businesses?
Yeah, I definitely think that with most things, right, there's kind of a tipping point to where certain things can be beneficial up to an extent, and then it's like too much of it can actually start to not be as beneficial or work against you, as you said. I think discipline is one of those things. And for me, that really it showed up first, I think, around food, which is a huge reason that I am about helping women kind of break up with the diet mentality or that unhealthy relationship to food.
I love that you're saying break up, I love that term. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And it was like once I started to solve that for me with food, as I moved out of the diet mentality and the dieting behaviors around food, I noticed that the same kind of underlying behaviors started to show up in my business, right? So it was like, since I wasn't channeling that into food or into my weight or trying to lose weight or my body, a lot of that like hyper focused, hyper discipline behavior started to show up in my business. And what I was noticing is that I was overworking. I was constantly thinking about work, thinking about my goals and, kind of beating myself up for not being further along. And so while, building a business and food or your weight or your body might seem very different on the surface, I do think that a lot of times the tendencies or the patterns or the habits that you have in one area, whether favorable or not, oftentimes are going to show up in other areas of your life as well.
And it's like the lessons we've learned elsewhere. Often it's exactly the kind of lessons we have to teach our clients, so it shows up again and again. Okay, so now my next question kind of is a nice segue into that. What is a tiny, small thing that you changed in your business that had unexpected and even delightful of consequences?
So two things come to mind. I feel like one is very strategic and concrete, and the other one, I think really had to do with working on my relationship to myself and success in my business. So the strategic thing that I think really has been beneficial is to set work hours and then stick to those.
Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't mean that there might not be certain days or seasons even where I may be working a little bit more, or, I'm attending an event or I'm hosting, an event that's on the weekend or the evening. But for the most part, I have pretty set business hours and I do my best to honor that.
To give us an idea, what are the typical hours that you work?
Yeah, so it's taken me a few years to kind of find what seems to be working right now. And I really kind of set the schedule with the end in mind. So it was like, if I were already running, a multiple 7-figure, 8-figure business, how would I want to be spending my time? Like, what would that look like for me? And so Mondays tends to be kind of my planning day, my prep day. I call it kind of a backstage day. So I'm planning my week. I'm kind of planning content. I am really just kind of taking Monday to sort of fill my cup up a little bit first. And I do that a little bit every single day, but Monday is definitely kind of a prep day for me. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays tends to be the days that I am working with my clients. I'm attending events or I'm hosting other events. I'm recording podcasts with other people. And then Friday is another one of those backstage days, but this is a little bit more of kind of the business and admin tasks. So I do any sort of, invoicing or, just little kind of tasks that, bookkeeping, things like that, making sure that all of that stuff is set up. If I need to send clients an email, oftentimes that happens on those Fridays. So that's kind of is like my wind down day, right? So Monday's revving up, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, my on stage days where I'm doing the speaking, the coaching, podcasting, those kinds of things, working on bigger projects. And then Friday is the admin and sort of revving down day. And then within that, both of my kids are in school full time now. So generally speaking, my work hours are kind of go along with their school hours.
Okay. So that was like the one thing, the external thing, but you said also the relationship with yourself was like almost like a tiny tweak, and that had a big impact for you. You want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think the other thing that was probably the most profound thing that really has allowed me to honor the scheduling as well as other things is releasing attachment to the goal.
Mhm.
right? So I really realized that I was relying on hitting a certain revenue goal or signing X number of clients or reaching X number of podcast downloads or whatever that external measure was. There was a lot of my self-worth and my self-value kind of tied up into hitting those markers
Mhm.
and achieving and all of those kinds of things. And so I think really just like working on my relationship to myself has allowed me to kind of release any sort of attachment or control that everything has to work out exactly the way that I planned. And if it doesn't, there's something wrong with me. I'm a failure. I'm never going to get there. It's just like the doomsday.
All of it coming up for all of us.
It starts to rain down. So those are the, I would say definitely it's probably never going to feel urgent to work on your relationship to yourself, but that could potentially be the most important thing that you do, not only for your business, but for you and your family and really just every area of your life.
But I can imagine for your clients as well. So thinking more like the relationship and the service aspect of your work, is there an incident when you thought, this is what I need to do? This is why I'm doing this work. It matters. It matters to me. It matters to the client. It matters to the world. Is there perhaps such a moment like, an aha, this is me. This is why I'm doing this.
I don't know that there's been one moment. Typically, I have those moments when I'm on my calls with my clients, right? When we get off of a call, in the middle of a call, when somebody lets me know that they heard a podcast episode that was exactly the thing that they needed to hear, or they've been listening and it's really been helping them. Or even people commenting on social media posts and just being like, oh my gosh, like I needed this today. I think all of those little things are confirmation for me that I'm on the right track. And what I love to do is if I get a comment or an email or, somebody sends me a message about that, I like to take a screenshot on my phone, and then I have that, I put all of those into a file so that on the days when my brain is just wanting to be like, you suck, you're never going to get there, like, who do you think you are? I have like those tangible reminders that the work that I'm doing does matter. It is effective. It's impacting people. And really and truly, like, nobody can say it or do it the way that I can. And so I think having that really kind of helps as well. But yeah, there's not just one moment. I feel very blessed that I get that reminder often.
Oh, good. So it's like that filling of the cup that you do on Mondays. It's like you have a system to actually refer to when you need that. That's so good to hear. Okay, you talked about social media. You are very open and very vulnerable on social media. So especially on Instagram, that's where I follow you. So what would be your advice to someone who is, when we just start out, we are too afraid to even show our faces on camera. What would you tell someone who's just starting out and who's still so afraid to be themselves on social media?
Yeah, I think early on in my business, I really listened to a lot of the gurus or social media experts. And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself that there was like a right way to do social media or a right way to be on social media. And I think that Instagram, since that was the one that you brought up, I think there was a season of time where it really did go through kind of a very curated, right? It's like you expected to go to somebody's page and only see like perfectly filtered photos, and everything had a great color scheme. And maybe to an extent, like that stuff still matters. Like, I don't want to completely negate like the marketing and the branding aspect of things. But if you are just starting out on social media, I would say don't let perfect be the enemy of done. In fact, I just did a post about that, where oftentimes, even if you don't consider yourself a perfectionist or having perfectionistic tendencies, what happens is we go into the all or nothing or the black and the white, and we let like not having a perfect brand scheme or not having the perfect backdrop or something like that stop us from just showing up. And what has made social media, I think, the most fun and even the most effective is me just like showing up as myself, right? So it's like sometimes stuff might look a little bit branded and a little bit more polished. But also like I just want to show up and connect and serve the woman that's on the other side that just needs to hear what I have to say. And so I think if you find yourself kind of overthinking it, it's like you just need to start recognizing that C work, C plus, B plus work is going to be good enough. And it's less about what it looks like. And it's more about your desire to serve the person that's on the other side that needs to hear from you.
Okay, so I'm curious. I have a question for you, a personal question. Why do you wear a nose ring? What's the story there?
Yeah, I mean, I wish that there was maybe like a more exciting story. I got my nose pierced for the first time back when I was like 15. And I wore it for a year or two. And when I first got it done, I was one of the few girls in my
Like a little
school
bit
that
of a
had it.
rebel, right?
Yeah. And then it was like, I noticed it was like, as more girls at my school started to get their nose pierced, I was like, okay, I'm taking this out. And so I took it out for a number of years. And, gosh, I can't even remember when I got it pierced again for the second time, but it's been probably 7 or 8 years. And I just like it. I mean, I have always been a little bit rebellious, a little bit questioning authority. If somebody tells me to do something, I want to know, why do I need to do that? It's not just the blind. I don't want to say blind faith, because I do think that there might be some times where I do exercise blind faith, but yeah, so I guess I've always been one to kind of question and push back a little bit. And so I think in some ways that's served me a lot. I think in other areas of my life, I've really had to learn to curb the rebellion and be a little bit more obedient. So
Do you think it's perhaps important for a solopreneur, an entrepreneur who's working on their own, to be a little bit of a rebel, to question things, to go your own way, to be willing? Do you think that's part of the personality type?
Oh, I'm sure to an extent, that probably is a little bit what draws people to working for themselves, right? It's like, I think for the most part, if you are willing to go out into business for yourself, it's because you don't want anybody else to be your boss. Like, you want to be your own boss. You want to make your own way. You don't want somebody else telling you what to do and how to run your business. So yeah, I bet, to an extent, there probably is that similarity in all of us where it was like, oh yeah, I did see the potential benefit to not having a 9 to 5 or not having somebody else telling me what to do, when to do it, and how to do it all the time.
And also be willing almost to embrace that part of yourself, to accept it. And this is me. I'm wearing a nose ring when no one else is wearing it still.
Yeah. And a while back, I read a book Called to Create, and it's by Jordan Rayner. And I'm probably not going to get this correct, but I do feel like in that book, he broke down even the word of entrepreneur. And it is kind of this idea of like building something new, like creating something that never existed before. And I think to have the ability to do that, even if it's a bookkeeping service or something else, that it's like, okay, you're not the only person doing it. You are the only person that can do it the way that you can do it. And you probably have some unique perspectives or experiences that is going to set your business apart. And, so I think that there is a little bit of that rebellion to be able to say, you know what? I think I might be able to do this a little bit better than what's happening, or like, I'm going to go out and create something that has never existed before. That takes a lot of courage, a lot of bravery. And just, yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Okay, so you mentioned a book. We all are big readers. Usually what I find, all of us are like learners, continuous learning. Who is your favorite business guru and why?
Oh gosh, I did see that on the questions that you sent over. Honestly, I would say right now I don't really have a favorite. I do listen a lot to Brooke Castillo, which I think we have that in common. And there are some things that I definitely agree with, and there are some things that I just kind of question and don't really resonate with me. I have also been studying under Stacey Bayman, who is also somebody that's come out
I
of the
think we
life
have
coach
that. We have that in common too. She's really so good at marketing. She just like breaks it down in such a doable format. That's what I love about Stacey. Yes.
Yes. And she is definitely one of those advocates of like, just get out there and take messy action. So kind of going back to that social media, but really you can apply that to any area of your business. So yeah, I've been in her program for a while. I have gotten amazing results following her program and doing the things that she talks about in terms of marketing and selling. So I do really like her. I think John Maxwell is great from a leadership perspective. I really like his style of leadership. It feels very shepherding, which makes sense because I believe he was a pastor before. So it makes certain sense that he has kind of that shepherding heart. I mean, those are the folks that come to the top of my mind just right off the bat.
Thank you. Those are good suggestions. People are always looking for new ones that they can follow. Okay, you talked about your podcast a little bit. So if someone is thinking of starting a podcast, talk a little bit about your schedule and what advice would you give them? What should they wait a little bit? Just like talk about podcasting because you are doing really well with yours, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. And I really love doing my podcast. So, I guess I would say don't necessarily wait. I don't know that there's a time that you have to wait to do it. Again, don't let perfection be the enemy of done. So, again, I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong or that you shouldn't have like a podcast producer or have, the musical intro and those kinds of things. But if you are waiting to start and you feel like you should start the podcast now, and you're waiting until you have all of those things in line, then I would encourage you to like, just get it going, just take the next step. Okay. And I actually didn't start my podcast until 2020. Prior to that, I was using social media and writing blogs. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to start a podcast one day. And for some reason, when I went to look it up, it seemed like it was so much more challenging than it actually was. And so I just kind of held it off. I was like, okay, yeah, we'll get there one day. And then in 2020, I really started to feel kind of that urge again. Like something inside of me just started to bubble up. And it was like, okay, maybe it's time to sort of revisit that. And I just did kind of a quick search on Google of, how do you start a podcast? I found an article, I think it was by Buzzsprout. And it seemed so simple that I was like, I can't believe this seemed so challenging for me at one point. I literally followed their step-by-step.
Yeah, I've seen that article. It's if you want to start it, I think we should, I will put the link in the description. It's like a step-by-step guide to start your own podcast, and it's not complicated at all.
At all. And, to this day, I still don't have like a musical intro on it. I think that those kinds of things, while it might make you feel more professional or polished, at the end of the day, like a lot of times when I'm listening to somebody's podcast, I actually even fast forward through that. So I don't even listen to the musical intro. So mine is very raw, like, let's get in there. You might hear me mess some of my words up. But again, at the end of the day, it's about like, what's the message? Like, how am I trying to serve somebody? And I think that matters so much more than the way that it looks kind of on the surface level.
So it's almost the same philosophy that you have about social media. It's just like continuing through all the way that you're reaching out to people. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I want somebody to feel like they know me before we even take that next step of getting on a call for a consult or working together. I think to me, that's a sign that I'm doing it well. If somebody feels at home and feels comfortable as soon as we hop on a call.
Okay, that's good advice. Right. So now this one, it's like a little bit more philosophical. If you could go back to your former self, starting out, when did you say 2011? And you could talk to her, what would you tell her about starting a business?
It's actually funny. This feels very similar to probably what I would have told myself if I could go back to having my first child. Because I feel like when you have your first kid, you think, oh my gosh, we have to have the nursery all set up. We have to have everything put away. All of this stuff has to be perfect. And then you get the baby home and you're like, we're not even using the nursery because the baby's sleeping with us, or I'm not even sleeping. I'm on the I'm on the couch. And so I feel like it's similar with the business, is that if I could go back, I would say you really don't need all of the things that you think that you need to just start making money. I feel like I kind of fell into the trap of buying a lot of different programs, buying a lot of different software, investing in different things that I thought that I needed. And I'm either not using any of that stuff now, or I'm just like, oh yeah, that really could have waited. So if you are listening to this and you are just starting out, if you are in the coaching industry in any capacity, I think the one purchase I probably would have made would have been Stacey Bayman's 2K for 2K. That, like I said, by far has helped me make the most money.
And so it's really like that. It's like you spend $2,000 and she helps you make your first $2,000, right? And it's the basic things, how to get started on the marketing. That's it.
And I love her philosophy where it's like, you're learning how to make money $2,000 at a time. So yes, she may be helping you make your first $2,000, or she's teaching you how to make $2,000 over and over and over more quickly.
Exactly. So you're not going to stop at $2,000. It's just like getting over the first $2,000. That's the big thing. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think for me, if I learned anything, I probably would have just invested in that right off of the get-go, and I would have saved myself a ton of money. But we learn from, sometimes it's like what I tell my own children. It's like the most valuable lessons sometimes are the most painful. And sometimes we have to kind of experience that on our own.
Okay. So we've talked about all the ways that you are showing up in the world. Where can people reach you?
Yeah. So if you are interested in a podcast that is all around kind of a non-diet approach to food, fitness, and just life transformation, you can check out The Strong Her Way. That's available on all major podcast platforms.
And we will put the link in. Okay, continue.
Great. And I am pretty active on Instagram, so you can find me at Alisha Carlson _ there. And if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the way that I work with my clients, the types of things that we work on, and you're just kind of in that place where you feel like you've tried all the things around food and exercise and nothing either seems to stick, or whatever you are doing is kind of making you miserable, then I want to help you not feel miserable around that area of your life anymore. You can just email me, Alisha at alishacarlson.com, to set up a free call.
Thank you so much. This was very helpful. I hope it's very inspirational to everybody who's like, I want to be an entrepreneur. Alisha, you made it sound so easy and so simple.
Well, yeah, I think we tend to overcomplicate it. So it really can be easy and simple. I think the biggest things is just be willing to be messy, be willing for it to not be perfect, and be willing to put yourself out there. You don't need to be polished and perfect for people to connect with you.